Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive that might just turn your view of reality upside down.
Sounds intriguing.
Well, today we're taking on David Bohm and his book Wholeness and the Implicate Order.
Bohm, one of the most fascinating thinkers of the 20th century.
Absolutely. And, our listeners are always up for a good mind-bending challenge.
Especially when it comes to physics and how we make sense of the universe.
Exactly. So Bohm throws down the gauntlet right from the start.
Yeah, he basically says our everyday idea of the world as a bunch of separate things is completely wrong.
Like that whole observer versus observed split that we've inherited from classical physics.
Right. It's so deeply ingrained in our Western thinking and our language even.
Like how we use subject-verb-object structure to describe just about everything.
Yeah, it's as if we can't even think outside that box.
So even when we're searching for a unified theory in physics,
Yeah.
we're still stuck in this fragmented mindset.
Exactly. It's like trying to assemble a puzzle, but we're using pieces from different puzzles.
Makes it pretty hard to see the bigger picture, huh? And Bohm argues that this fragmented worldview even affects how we see ourselves as isolated egos cut off from the larger whole.
Wow, that's a pretty profound idea. I mean, if our thinking is that fragmented, how can we ever hope to understand something as complex as the universe?
Well, that's where Bohm's genius comes in. He says we need a radical shift in perspective.
So how do we break free from this fragmented thinking?
He starts by reminding us that even scientific theories are just insights.
Okay, I'm following you.
They're like limited views that work really well within certain boundaries, but then break down when we try to extend them too far.
Like how we used to think the Earth was the center of the universe until Copernicus and Galileo came along.
Exactly, or how Newton's laws of motion were revolutionary. But then Einstein came along with relativity and blew everything wide open.
So each theory was a step forward, but it wasn't the whole story.
Precisely. And Bohm's point is that we have to be aware of how our theories shape our perception of facts.
Because sometimes we get so attached to our theories that we try to force the facts to fit them.
Exactly. And Bohm would say that experience and knowledge are inseparable aspects of a single process.
Okay, I can see how that leads to his idea of the implicate order, but I gotta be honest, this is where things start to get a little mind-bending for me.
We'll get ready for a ride.
Because we're about to enter a realm where everything's interconnected, where nothing's truly separate.
Welcome to the implicate order.
So is that where the hologram analogy comes in? Because I've heard that's a good way to visualize this concept.
Absolutely. Just like a hologram, each piece contains information about the whole image.
So even a tiny fragment can recreate the entire picture.
And that's what Bohm suggests about reality. Each part of the universe, no matter how small, contains a blueprint for the whole.
So it's not just about things interacting with each other, it's about everything being enfolded within everything else.
Precisely. And this constant unfolding and enfolding, this dynamic flux of the universe, is what Bohm calls the holomovement.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So instead of separate objects interacting, we have this interconnected web where everything's constantly influencing everything else.
That's a great way to put it. It's like the universe is this giant cosmic dance where every move affects every other move.
Well, hold on. If everything's constantly in motion, how can there be any order? Doesn't order imply stability, fixed positions?
Well, Bohm challenges our conventional understanding of order. He says true order isn't about rigid arrangement.
So not like a perfectly arranged grid.
Right, it's more about dynamic interconnectedness.
Okay. I think I'm starting to get it. It's like a symphony where each note contributes to the overall harmony, even though the music is always flowing and changing.
Exactly. Or think of a flock of birds swirling through the sky. It looks chaotic, but there's an underlying order, a beautiful dance of interconnected movements.
So instead of trying to impose a static order on the universe, we need to learn to appreciate the order that emerges from this dynamic interplay of forces.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
And this connects to Bohm's concept of measure.
Measure, I thought that just meant like size or quantity.
Well, it goes deeper than that. Bohm's talking about everything having its rightful place within the interconnected whole.
It's like each instrument in an orchestra has a specific role to play, contributing to the richness and complexity of the music.
Precisely. And he even suggests that our current notions of space and time might need to be rethought.
Because those seem pretty fundamental to our understanding of the universe.
They are. But Bohm felt that both relativity and quantum theory were pointing towards a more fluid and interconnected picture of reality.
I mean, relativity already messes with our ideas of absolute space and time.
It does, and quantum theory throws in things like entanglement, where particles are connected across vast distances in ways that defy our classical understanding.
So Bohm saw these theories as stepping stones towards a more holistic worldview.
He did, and he took it even further with his own interpretation of quantum theory.
Right, because he wasn't satisfied with the idea that the universe is fundamentally random and unpredictable at the quantum level.
Exactly. He felt there had to be a deeper explanation, a more fundamental order at play.
So what did he propose?
Well, he introduced some pretty controversial ideas like
Yeah.
the concept of hidden variables.
I've heard of that, but it always sounded kind of mysterious to me.
Yeah, they're factors that influence the behavior of particles, but that we can't directly observe.
So it's like saying there's a deeper level of order beneath the surface chaos.
Exactly. And Bohm believed that these hidden variables were guided by something called the quantum potential.
Quantum potential. Now, that's a term I haven't heard before.
It's a field that operates non-locally, meaning it can influence particles instantaneously, regardless of distance.
Whoa. So it's like those particles are connected by an invisible web that allows them to communicate faster than the speed of light.
It is, and this idea of non-locality is actually supported by experiments that show particles behaving as if they're connected even when they're miles apart.
I remember reading about the Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen paradox, or EPR paradox.
Yes, the thought experiment that was meant to disprove this idea of spooky action at a distance.
But instead it ended up confirming it.
Exactly. And Bohm actually developed his own simplified version of the EPR paradox to illustrate the implications of his interpretation of quantum mechanics.
So what he's saying is that the universe is fundamentally interconnected, even at the subatomic level, in ways that our classical physics can't fully grasp.
That's the essence of it. And what's even more mind-blowing is that Bohm doesn't stop at the material world. He extends this idea of the implicate order to include consciousness itself.
Whoa, hold on. We're going there.
We are. Because Bohm saw consciousness not as something separate from the material world, but as another manifestation of this interconnected flow of energy and information.
So it's like our thoughts and feelings and experiences are also emerging from this deeper level of interconnectedness.
Precisely. And this opens up a whole new way of understanding ourselves and our place in the universe.
Well, I definitely need a moment to process all of that. This has been a truly mind-expanding exploration of David Bohm's idea so far.
It has, and in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore what it means to live in a world where the implicate order is the primary reality.
We'll delve into questions of free will, creativity, and even the nature of space and time itself.
So buckle up, because things are about to get even more interesting.
I can't wait. Okay, so my brain is still spinning from that last part. The implicate order consciousness emerging from this interconnected web, it's a lot to take in.
It is, but it opens up so many fascinating questions.
Like, where does free will fit into all of this? If we're just expressions of this larger process, do we really have any choice in the matter?
Right, because on the one hand, we feel like we're making decisions shaping our lives.
But then Bohm comes along and suggests that everything's interconnected at this fundamental level.
It makes you wonder if our sense of agency is just an illusion.
Yeah, like, are we really calling the shots, or are we just along for the cosmic ride?
Well, Bohm wouldn't deny the reality of our experiences, including the feeling of free will.
So he's not saying it's all predetermined.
No, he'd encourage us to explore how those experiences emerge from the implicate order.
So maybe instead of thinking of free will as this absolute power to do whatever we want.
It's more about how our choices arise within this interconnected web of reality.
Okay. I can see that our choices aren't made in a vacuum. They're influenced by countless factors.
Exactly. Our thoughts, our feelings, our past experiences, the social and cultural context we're embedded in.
It's like we're improvising within a larger composition.
I like that analogy. Contributing our unique melodies to the cosmic symphony.
But couldn't that still imply a sort of determinism? If our choices are ultimately shaped by this underlying order, where does that leave our sense of responsibility?
Well, Bohm wouldn't say it's that rigid. The implicate order isn't a fixed script.
So it's not like fate or destiny.
No, it's more like a flowing river than a railroad track.
Okay, so it's not predetermined, but a constant unfolding where new possibilities can emerge from the implicate order.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's a dynamic process, always open to novelty and change.
Like those swirling patterns you see in a flowing stream?
Exactly. And think back to that hologram analogy. Each part contains information about the whole.
Right, but that doesn't mean the image is static.
Exactly. Just like illuminating a hologram from different angles reveals different perspectives.
So the implicate order can unfold in countless ways, creating this amazing diversity of experiences.
It's a realm of infinite potential.
And this makes me think about creativity. If reality is this constant flow of unfolding possibilities, then maybe creativity is about tapping into that flow.
allowing new things to emerge from the implicate order.
It's like we're not creating something out of nothing. We're drawing from this infinite wellspring of potentiality,
And what's fascinating is that Bohm's ideas resonate with a lot of ancient philosophies.
like those that emphasize interconnectedness and the flow of the universe.
Exactly. Take Taoism, for example. It talks about this universal flow, the Tao, that underlies all of existence.
And we're not separate from this flow, we're a part of it.
Right. And Bohm would say that we can even influence this flow through our actions.
It's not about trying to control it.
No, it's more about aligning ourselves with it, acting in harmony with the deeper order of the universe.
Becoming a skilled surfer riding the waves of the cosmic ocean.
Beautiful image. And this leads to a really empowering idea. We're not just passive observers,
We're co-creators of reality.
participating in the ongoing evolution of the universe.
Okay, so if this holomovement is the foundation of reality, does that change how we think about space and time?
Absolutely. Bohm encourages us to rethink even those basic building blocks.
Because those seem pretty fundamental to our everyday experience.
They are, but he'd say that space and time as we experience them aren't absolute.
So they're not like fixed coordinates on a grid.
No, they emerge from the implicate order.
So instead of space being this empty container and time linear arrow,
They're more like fluid aspects of this dynamic holomovement.
almost like currents within the cosmic river.
I like that analogy. He actually uses the image of a flowing stream,
Okay, I can picture that.
like how a whirlpool appears as a distinct form, but is ultimately part of the flow.
Right, it has a certain stability, but it's constantly forming, dissolving, and reforming.
Exactly. And Bohm suggests that everything, including ourselves, is like a whirlpool in the holomovement.
Wow, so we're not these solid, static objects.
We're patterns of energy and information constantly changing within this larger flow.
It's a pretty radical shift in perspective.
It is. But it helps to explain how everything is interconnected, how change is constant, and how even seemingly solid objects are ultimately expressions of this underlying process.
But if everything is in flux, how do we explain the apparent stability of the world around us?
Well, that's where Bohm's concept of relative autonomy comes in.
Relative autonomy.
He suggests that certain patterns of energy and information can become relatively stable within the holomovement,
Giving rise to the appearance of enduring objects.
like those whirlpools again. They maintain a distinct form for a while, even though they're part of a larger flow.
And this applies from the subatomic level to galaxies.
Exactly. They're all relatively autonomous patterns of energy and information emerging and dissolving within the larger flow.
Nothing is truly static or separate.
It's all interconnected and interdependent.
It's like the universe is this intricate dance of interconnected patterns, always changing, but with certain forms persisting for a while before dissolving back into the flow.
It's a beautiful and awe-inspiring vision.
But if that's the case, what does it mean for consciousness? If it's part of this implicate order, is there some sort of cosmic consciousness that encompasses everything?
That's a profound question, and one that Bohm explored in his later work.
So he didn't shy away from the big questions.
No. He was always pushing the boundaries of thought. He proposed that consciousness might not be limited to individual brains.
So it's not just a product of the brain.
Right. He saw it as a fundamental aspect of the universe itself.
Like maybe consciousness is woven into the very fabric of reality.
Exactly. And he even suggested that consciousness might play a role in the unfolding of the universe.
Whoa. Are you saying that consciousness is actively involved in shaping reality?
It's a mind-bending concept, but it aligns with certain interpretations of quantum mechanics that emphasize the role of the observer.
Like how the act of observation can affect the behavior of particles.
Exactly. And Bohm took it a step further, suggesting that consciousness is a fundamental force in the universe, shaping the entire creative process.
So it's not just about our individual consciousness influencing our personal realities?
It's about consciousness as a cosmic force, shaping the evolution of the universe itself.
That's a pretty radical idea.
It is. But it offers a sense of wonder and possibility. It invites us to see ourselves as active participants in the cosmic drama.
Wow. This has been a truly mind-expanding journey so far.
It has. Bohm's ideas are challenging, but also incredibly inspiring.
They make you question everything you thought you knew about the universe and your place in it.
And in the next part of our deep dives, we'll explore how these ideas might transform our understanding of human connection, creativity, and the search for meaning in a world that often feels fragmented and uncertain.
So stay tuned for the final part of our exploration of David Bohm's Wholeness and the Implicate Order. Okay, so we've been through the looking glass with David Bohm, explored the implicate order, this idea that everything's interconnected at the deepest level.
And how even consciousness might be part of this cosmic web.
Right, but it's not just some abstract philosophical concept. Bohm believed it has real implications for how we live our lives.
He felt this fragmented thinking we've inherited was actually at the root of a lot of our problems.
Like conflict and division.
Exactly. Look around. We see it everywhere in our relationships, our politics, our relationship with the environment.
Like we're trying to solve global issues with the same mindset that created them.
Yeah, it's like using a broken tool to fix something.
And Bohm saw a way out. He believed we need a transformation in consciousness.
A shift from fragmentation to wholeness.
But how do we actually make that shift? It sounds pretty daunting.
Well, Bohm emphasized the importance of dialogue.
Dialogue, like actually talking to each other.
More than that, it's about deep listening, suspending judgment, being open to new understanding.
So not just trying to win an argument or prove our point.
Right. It's about creating a space where something new can emerge, something that transcends our individual perspectives.
Like creating those mini holomovements right within our conversations.
Exactly, those pockets of interconnectedness where we can start to bridge the divides.
And maybe through these kinds of dialogues, we can start to heal the fragmentation within ourselves and our relationships.
Cultivating empathy, compassion, a willingness to see the world through other people's eyes.
It sounds challenging, but also incredibly hopeful.
It is, because Bohm believed that individual and social transformation go hand in hand.
So it's not just about changing ourselves, it's about changing the systems and structures that perpetuate fragmentation.
Right. He envisioned a society based on cooperation and a deep understanding of our interconnectedness.
A society where we're not just competing for resources, but working together for the common good.
And he saw the potential for a kind of collective awakening.
Like a critical mass of people embracing this more holistic worldview.
And that could transform society from the inside out.
It's not about waiting for someone else to fix things. It's about each of us doing the inner work.
And letting that ripple outwards.
Recognizing that our actions, no matter how small, have an impact on the whole.
It's a perspective that calls for both inner work and outward action.
Cultivating qualities like empathy, compassion, and a sense of responsibility for the well-being of all.
It's a lifelong journey, a continuous process of questioning our assumptions, challenging our biases, and opening ourselves to new ways of seeing the world.
And Bohm knew this wouldn't be easy. He believed humanity was at a crossroads,
Facing a choice between continuing down the path of fragmentation,
which could lead to our own destruction.
or choosing a new path, one based on wholeness, harmony, and interconnectedness.
A path that could lead to a more peaceful and sustainable future.
It's a powerful message, and while it might sound idealistic to some,
I think Bohm's ideas offer a genuine path towards a better world.
I agree. His work gives us a new framework for understanding our relationship with the cosmos.
And it empowers us to become conscious participants in the unfolding of the universe. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the incredible world of David Bohm. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired.
Me too. Bohm's work is a reminder that we're all part of something much bigger than ourselves.
And that we have the power to create a more beautiful and just world.
To our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring Bohm's ideas.
And to see how they might inform your own understanding of reality and your place in it.
Remember, we're all interconnected. Our
Yeah.
thoughts, actions, and choices matter.
Let's embrace the challenge of living a more holistic and interconnected life.
For ourselves, for each other, and for the planet.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, keep seeking those deeper connections that unite us all.